Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for another breakfast chat. And I may scale these back just a hair coming up because again client intake is picking back up, client work's getting a little busy again. So I may or may not keep doing as many of these. I'll probably scale them back a little no matter what. But today we are having bison, rice, a little bit of cheese, cranberry juice. People who are asking me for my recipes, stop asking, it's getting silly. I told you the recipe. There's water added, cook it in an Instapot. This isn't complicated. That's the entirety. I gave you all four of my ingredients, the three things here, plus water. You press the rice button. Okay, it's all, that's it. That's the entirety, it's my whole recipe, guys. It's not complicated. Also, for those who are commenting about why is it so much dimmer, that's the theme I'm setting for these videos. I turn off the lights in the other room. I only have the overhead lights on in the gym. It's intentional. All right. It's my morning wake up here. I want a bunch of bright light in my face. Let's talk about RPE. I had mentioned it the other day. I think RPE is lazy. I think it's useless. I have other videos coming out, but they won't be out for months into my regular informative stuff. And I like to have all those ready for when I'm busy and I don't want to make videos, so that I have stuff to give you guys every day. But let's jump into it a little bit further because someone said, "Hey, could you cover that in a breakfast chat?" And yeah, absolutely. I don't believe in RPE. I think it's based upon basically lazy training. And the reason I say that, I don't believe in really serious submaximal sets unless they're programmed speed type work. I mean, even if I have lifters who aren't doing speed work yet, I will have them pull submaximal high set singles on their deadlifts. But again, that's almost replicating speed work that I'm going to rotate them into. So outside of doing dynamic effort work, which is again, off program percentages, even your bands and chains are programmed off a percentage of your max for speed work. Okay, they're not based upon how does it feel, or they're based on bar speed. You adjust percentages if the bar is moving too slow or too fast when you look at it in software. Right? You measure it. How fast is it moving? That's all mathematics. None of that is based upon how you feel. Everything else we're either training on rep maxes, or we're doing sets within 1 rep to failure or to failure. So if you're training in that manner, or you're programming off percentages, there is no point in RPE. RPE is lazy. What does RPE 8 even mean? How you feel? Well, how you feel is a lie. Your muscle fibers and upper threshold fibers don't care how fatigued you are. And if you're not able to replicate performance, you're entering junk volume. You're entering junk volume. What do I mean? If you are working with your 12 rep max, any set in which you only hit like 7 reps is completely useless. It's a complete waste of time. And people will say, well, I mean, I did multiple sets and I got really fatigued. Okay, that doesn't mean you didn't do junk volume. If you get to set 3 or set 4 of an exercise, or you get to your second exercise for that muscle group, and you can no longer hit sets with the rest times you're using that allow you to get up to those points, meaning if you're working at, say, 70%, that's around 11 or a 12 rep max, all out fresh. So if you're doing sets of 10 with that, we're in the effective rep zone, right? You're getting quality reps. By the third set, it may be your 10 rep max, but we're still in the effective rep zone. The problem is if you start accumulating fatigue and you're not recovering between sets enough, and you get down to where you do a set with only 6 reps or 7 reps, you didn't stimulate any muscle growth. You didn't get anything. And it doesn't matter how it felt. And that's what I want people to grasp here. How do you feel? It's like I always said that with John Bro's stuff from years ago. How you feel is a lie. Or as Louis Simmons says, intensity is a mathematical equation, not a feeling. It's an equation. It doesn't matter that you're fatigued. If you're so fatigued that you're only getting, say, 6 or 7 reps, what does that tell you? What is happening in the body that's causing that? What is it about the last 5 reps before failure? Usually when we're more than 5 reps of failure when we're fresh, we're having to use the upper threshold motor units and the associated muscle fibers. All the muscle fibers that get the most muscle growth, that can hypertrophy the most, are the ones being used now. They can only handle so much work. They can only do a few reps, and then they stop kicking in. They're too fatigued to go in again. But we wear out the endurance fibers. So if you're working with a 12 rep max, it's about 70%, 11, 12 rep max. Around rep 8, rep 7, all the endurance fibers, the ones that I'm using to eat with, the ones that I'm using to move my arms, this is easy, my arms don't weigh that much. There's a joke for those of you who think I don't have arms. The ones that you use to walk, that you use to jog, your endurance fibers. That's what you're using. They get tired under load very quickly. They're good for jogging, they're not good for squatting. They get tired real quick. You can only handle so much work at a given percentage of your max. Then the upper threshold fibers have to take over to continue the set. That's why when you do really high reps, if you don't go to absolute failure, you're not getting anything. You're not getting a benefit. That's why the research that looks at that says, hey, if we start going above 20 reps, you better be going to failure. Or it's a complete waste. Did nothing. So what ends up happening is that that's what's required to get there. If you're doing enough sets and your rest times are too short, and rest time being short is relative, it might take you 10 minutes to recover between sets at a certain point. You might reach a certain point in your training where for your upper threshold fibers to be recovered enough to refire again, depending on how in shape you are and how many sets you just did, you might need 10 minutes. And if you only rest 7 minutes in that case and you go to do another set, and let's say you're working at 70% of your max, if you're only hitting 6 reps and then you fail, you didn't get to those upper threshold fibers. They never re-engaged. And all that fatigue you're inducing is just beating up your recovery. You're not doing anything, unless you're on a bunch of gear, in which case you'll grow from it. But if you're not going to get any benefit. How you feel is irrelevant. We need to be working on percentages of a max. And let's come back over to my other point. People say, well, Jason, not everyone maxes out. No, fucking pussies don't max out. Actually, that's not even true because, again, you guys remember we chatted with Leonards. Jason Leonards has grandmas and housewives maxing out every week at his gym. General population, and they don't get hurt. So I don't know why you guys are afraid to max out. All of my clients, once I get them out of the novice phase, we're novice, we're running linear progression anyways. We're not worried about RPE either. We're just running linear progression. All my lifters and a lot of my novices still max out once I get their form dialed in and their low back is strong. All my lifters max out. You guys watched me. For a while I was maxing out on 8 lifts a week. I max out. The training max is 6 lifts a week right now. You're telling me you can't max out? I'm 44 years old doing 6 maxes a week. And I'm not getting hurt doing them. Why can't you max out? This is where stuff breaks down with the silliness of people who are afraid to max out regularly. Or at the very least, training maxes. It resolves these problems. People say, well, I don't know, I can't calculate percentages. You can't calculate percentages. And by the way, we can run percentages on other lifts off of our big lifts. You should be able to approximate how much you should glute bridge or good morning compared to a squat or a deadlift. You should be able to figure this out. You should know how much you can row relative to your bench. Okay? We can run percentages off those other maxes. Max out, the problem is solved. Then you'll always have percentages to work on. Okay? If you want to be strong, you have to max. And in fact, that's the recipe to gaining ridiculous amounts of strength. People want to know how I lift what I lift on some of these bigger lifts, because I focus on hypertrophy, getting as big as possible, right, which is the foundation of our strength. The bigger muscle has more strength potential, and we actualize that potential by maxing. But the maxing also gives us good programming data. It gives us good programming data to work with. So when we have data to work with, we have math, we have all these things that we can do, how we feel doesn't matter. We can throw all that aside. Let's deal with facts, let's deal with math, let's deal with science, not your feelings. Okay? And that's what RPE is how you feel. Well, how you feel doesn't matter. The weight, your muscle fibers, all of that, they don't care how you feel. We can approach this stuff scientifically. We can approach this stuff analytically. We can approach this mathematically, not emotionally. Right? And that's why I don't like RPE. It's a bullshit excuse to train lazy. Unless you're RPE, I train at RPE 9.5 or 10 on every set. Okay, then I guess we're okay then, but why do you need the RPE scale in that case? Because you're never going to do a 7 or an 8. And you shouldn't be anyways. Those are practice reps. That's practicing a movement. You're not gaining muscle from it. All right, guys. Well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.